Today we'll be discussing about justification of tenders, that is, justified cost of the tenders. We know that in construction or civil engineering works, we talk about many type of terminology like estimated cost, then estimated cost put to tender, sometimes sanctioned cost or administrative approval and expenditure sanction cost, then maybe detailed estimated cost, then tendered cost, contract amount, and then justified cost, so many. So we'll discuss all these today. Uh, Let us start from estimated cost. We know that for a building or road, we don't prepare generally the cost based on all items required during execution of work. So what we do based on, say, suppose plinth area of the building, we prepare the estimated cost, or maybe length of the road. Based on length of the road, we prepare the estimate. This estimate generally we call a preliminary estimate. So basically preliminary estimated cost we can say, or estimated cost. So this is the estimated cost of a work, and this preliminary estimate is generally sent to the client or to the owner of the project or in the government for getting sanction, and then that sanction we generally call it in government administrative approval and expenditure sanction. Administrative approval means they agree for the work, and the expenditure sanction means the government agrees to incur the expenditure for that particular work to the extent which is mentioned in the preliminary estimate. So that is called administrative approval expenditure sanction, or simply sanction. Now, a detailed estimate, we know it is prepared for preparation of tender documents. So BOQ is required, so it means item wise BOQ is required. So all the items are considered based on the drawings available with the engineer. So this is item wise quantities quantities are determined, and then the rates are taken from schedule of rate or market rate or analyzed rate, whatever it is. So based on that we prepare the BOQ, and that is bill of quantities. So the bill of quantity means that is part of detailed estimate. So then this is used for preparation of the tender document. Now detailed estimate means the engineer certifies that the work is structurally sound. So based on that he is working out, you would see they are working out the quantities. So that is called estimated detailed estimate cost. And then from detailed estimate cost, generally we include contingencies. So these contingencies are taken out while calling the tenders. So, or sometimes even when cost index is added in detailed estimate cost, but few organizations take out this cost index also from detailed estimated cost. So they consider the amount without cost index, but all the amount is derived based on all quantities and rates available in the schedule or market. So that is called estimated cost put to tender. It means estimated cost put to tender is always less than the detailed estimated cost. So basically this cost is given, estimated cost put to tender means it is given for working out the amount of the earnest money, and then also the contractor can quote the rate based on this estimated cost, whatever percentage he is working out above or below in case of percentage rate contracts, and in case of item rate contract he is to quote the rates for all the items. Now in EPC contract we don't have detailed estimated cost based on items, but then broad specifications are there and broad stage of payments are there. So based on that the contract is to quote lump sum amount. So if you talk about item rate or percentage rate contenders, then there we are taking rates from schedule of rates and also from analysis. That means the rates which are not available in the schedule of rates, for those items we are preparing the analysis based on the market rates. So these items are additionally included in the BOQ. Now, we must understand that schedule of rates are for some particular station. Suppose we are using Delhi schedule of rates, it means the rates mentioned in Delhi schedule of rates are of Delhi. Even in Delhi, Delhi is a big area. Suppose 35-40 kilometers distance is there from one place to another place, and so site to site also there may be variations. There may be variation in the rate of the items. So they are not actual rates at the site. This we must remember. So what we are to do is that we are to find out what is the actual rate, or probably actual means most likely rate at the site. So that is to be found out when how we will find out, that also we can see. So this is applicable in both in case of item rate and percentage rate contract. Uh, and then sometimes there are large number of items which are not directly available in POQ, but there are conditions in the contract which have financial implications, like say suppose taxes, or suppose safety requirement, suppose environmental consideration, or suppose some extra establishment is required. Suppose in the tender it is mentioned that a conference hall is to be constructed at site, or some offices are to be constructed at site, or CCTVs are to be installed, or say lab is to be installed, so many things. So then there may be workers welfare requirements. Suppose canteen is to be done, suppose for them toilets are or latrines are to be made, or suppose huts are to be made, or labor accommodation is to be made. So all these have financial implications. Then testing charges. Suppose the contractor is to bear the testing charges of the materials. So those, and they suppose those are not available included in the rates of the items. So there may be large number of such items which have financial implications. So, and then even in some cases price escalation. Price escalation may not be part of the contract. Suppose that is not part of the contract, then price escalation will also be added by the contractor when he quotes the rates. So all these items, this cost is also to be added in the estimated cost which have been put up to the tender. So then if we have the rates and the amount, considering all these factors at the site, so that becomes the justified cost of the work. So that is justified cost we are talking about. And then before acceptance of tenders, many organizations they require to determine the justified cost of the tenders or the work, justified cost of the work, and then they compare the justified cost with the quoted, lowest quoted or whatever quoted amount by the contractor. And if the rates are within the limit of permissible limit by the organization, then they accept the tender, and sometimes they negotiate the rates also if that is more than the permissible limit. So it means justified cost is this the cost of work at the site, considering the scope of the work. So Now the important is that the engineer or architect whosoever is preparing the justification, he is generally asked to prepare the justification considering more than 90% of the items. Generally, it is considered that the items which are costly, they should be considered, and so more than 90% means more than 90% if we consider, and if we extra interpolate for 100% cost, then approximately uh, the cost will be worked out. And suppose 5 up to 5% above the tender can be accepted, then above justified cost, then that will cover that. So engineer prepares, engineer consider all the items, costly items, then take out the analysis of all the items, consider the rates at the site for all the items required in that item during analysis. So it means material cost, taxes, labor cost, everything, and contractor profit and overheads. Those are included in the analysis of the items. That is done. So finally, the rate of that particular item is derived, which is different from the schedule of rates. Generally it is different because some rates will be different. So that is the rate of one item. So similarly, uh, analysis is done for more than 90% of cost of the items. Once that is done, then the total cost is worked out, and based on the suppose 94% for 90% costly cost items, this is X is the amount justified cost, and for 100% it will be whatever it is coming. So based on that, we find out the justified cost. And what we discussed earlier, that whatever financial implications are of other contract conditions, that is can also be added. What happens generally, the organizations they prescribe the method how the justified cost is worked out, and sometimes because for all the items it is not possible to find out the financial implication, so they prescribe a lump sum percentage which can be added. Suppose for safety or quality assurance, suppose for quality assurance there is a third party quality assurance. Organizations find out from earlier quotations or tenders that 1%, approximately 1% cost is charged. So they will say that 1% cost can be added for third party quality assurance, or if it is to be done by the contractor or paid by the contractor. Similarly, suppose for environment and safety consideration, 1% cost is estimated, and this can be added. For other things, similarly, for labor welfare and all things, this can be worked out. So even when we can see, so this, or suppose in contractor profit overhead, say suppose 15% is added. So suppose 10% is for the contractor profit, and 5% is for machinery, equipment, and for work labor welfare measures, then this can also be there. So whatever criteria has been mentioned in the organization's documents, that is followed by those engineers. But this is the process how the justified cost is worked out. Now, uh, so what extra we pay once the contract is there, then the cost of work is not the same as contract cost. Contract cost means once the tendered cost is there, then after suppose there is a negotiation, and after negotiation whatever amount has been worked out, that is the contract cost. So contract cost has come during signing of the agreement. Then maybe there is a variation in the contract quantities or deviation in the quantities. Those will be paid separately. Then suppose taxes are not part of the contract. Suppose GST is not part of the contract, it is reimbursed. Then that will also go into the work. And then suppose escalation is to be paid separately, then price escalation will be worked out. and that will also be paid. Or suppose there is a provision of incentives also, or testing charges to be reimbursed, then all those things will be given to the contractor later on. So, but the cost of work, when we say the cost of work, means whatever cost has been incurred right from the beginning, whether it is given to the consultant, surveyor, or contingency, plus to the contractor above in the for the execution of the contract, and for the execution of other items. And finally, suppose some fees is to be paid for getting OC and all those things. So all this will be added. So that is the cost of work up to the closure of the accounts. So cost of work is different from the contract amount or contract cost. Even final cost of the work is different. Final cost of work paid to the contractor is different from the contract cost. So final cost of work is compared with the estimated cost, sanctioned or sanctioned cost. And generally, if sanctioned cost, if this cost, total cost of the work varies by more than 10% of the sanctioned cost, then revised estimate is also submitted. Then there is a difference between estimated cost put to tender, estimated cost, sanctioned cost, justified cost. So these are not the same. Now, in item rate and percentage rate contract, these justified cost is prepared, and we do it. We have been doing easily in the past. There is no problem. But problem is in EPC contracts, because EPC contract they do not have BOQ. So preparing justification is much more difficult in case of EPC contracts. Few organizations, what they do, they consider whatever sanction cost is there, that as the justified cost, and if the tenders have been received lower than the, or at nearly equal to the sanction cost, then they say it is the justified cost. But probably this in future this may not be a correct concept for the organizations who are preparing the justified cost, and because there may be large component which are payable to the contractor during execution of work or after execution of work, and if the implications of those are not considered, but they are considered, suppose in the estimated cost or sanction cost, then these two will not remain same, as we have discussed. So briefly, if we again discuss it, it means if we are to find out the justified cost in case of EPC contracts, then what we should do it, because we know that sanction cost is worked out based on the plinth area rates, and plinth area rates are basically fixed based on the total completed cost of a project, and that total completed cost includes the estimated cost, then the cost given to the contract consultants or the architects, then also surveyor, all site pre-planning works or planning works, contingencies, variations, escalation, whatever has been done, extra items, subsidiary items, whatever it is. So that means that when we work out the plinth area rates, it means we are finding out the final cost of work, and from the final cost of work we find out the plinth area rate based on the plinth area of the building. So unit rate is unit rate per unit plinth area is available, and that is considered for the sanctioning or ANDS of preliminary estimate. Now suppose we want to find out the justified cost in case of EPC contract, then we are to subtract these costs. Suppose I have the provision of escalation in case of PPC contract, then the escalation which will be payable approximately, then the cost is to be subtracted from that. Suppose the testing charges will be paid by the employer, then that cost is to be subtracted from the EPC justified cost. So similarly, whatever cost we are incurring extra right from the beginning to final handing over of the work to the client, those components are to be deducted. If we deduct approximately those components, then probably we will be closer to actual justified cost in case of EPC contracts. Though I agree that working out a justified cost in case of EPC contract is difficult. But sometimes few engineers and architects and even clients, they ask the question, why do we need justified cost? We don't need, uh, because the contractor who is quoting the rate, he knows the actual market rate and he is quoting, then there is no need to find out the justified cost. And few organizations work on this philosophy, but few organizations are not working. um, Particularly they feel that maybe there may be cartel amongst the contractors, and in that case the contractor may quote higher rates than the market rates. Undue profit may be there to the contractor, and there is to find out whether there is undue profit, we need justified cost. So these are two philosophies, and whatever is appropriate, considered approved by the organization, they can follow accordingly. Well, thank you very much. I am KM Soni. Thanks a lot.